Promised, joining me now in the living room is Kimberly Heckler, the author of this book that I have right in my hands, A Woman of Firsts, Margaret Heckler, Political Trailblazer. It's a book she wrote about her late mother-in-law, who was the first female Congresswoman from Massachusetts, as well as the first female Secretary of Health and Human Services, and the first female ambassador to Ireland. Imagine that. What an accomplishment, plural. Thank you for being with us, Kimberly.
Thank you very much.
And thank you for writing this book about an amazing, amazing woman. Your mother-in-law, Margaret, and she served so faithfully, but she had to overcome so much from actually the moment she was born.
She certainly did, yes. Her parents came over to Ellis Island from Ireland. Her mother and father had her later in life in Queens, New York, and her father was a troubled man, and they gave her away at birth, not at all what her mother would have desired. But, and so she was raised by a Catholic woman that was an elderly woman from her mother's church that took in Margaret from the day she was born, Belinda West, that I refer to as Mrs. West in our book. And Margaret's mother's prayers and this woman, Belinda West, these two pillars, these two women, their prayers just catapulted and this young woman to go on to have a stunning career in politics and touching the lives of millions of Americans.
Wow. It's an amazing story, I can tell. And A Woman of First, this is a book that Catholics, I think, would be very interested in reading, even if they're not necessarily or consider themselves political, right?
That is true. The book reads like a novel, but every word is true. It's 130 interviews from people like Sandra Day O'Connor, George H.W. Bush, Jim Baker, Senator Ed Markey, both sides of the aisle. Margaret was right down the middle in Massachusetts. She was a congresswoman for 16 years. She served District 10, Wellesley to Fall River. Then she became HHS Secretary under Ronald Reagan, and then finally the first woman ambassador to Ireland. But her convictions and her Catholic faith is what led her decisions in the Congress, at HHS, and as ambassador to Ireland, returning to the place where her parents fled poverty.
I actually think that the third one was probably the most fun. What do you think?
I would agree. I would agree.
Now, what influence did your mother-in-law's Catholic education have on her accomplishments and doing so much for this country as a Catholic?
When she came into Congress, she would be one of 10 women in the full Congress. And if you add the Senate as well, there were like 512 men to 10 women. So think about it. She was a minority, and so the obstacles that she had to face found her in the chapel there at the Capitol, often praying that she not step into the man's world without femininity. Yet she needed to be bold, and so she did write the law for women to get credit and credit cards in their own names for the first time in American history. 1974 was the first time women didn't have to have their husband or father co-sign for a loan for them. And then she went on to co-sponsor Title IX. Of course, she was in support of the Equal Rights Amendment, which never passed. And then you talk about Black History Month. When she became Secretary of Health and Human Services, she found out, she had a meeting with a group of Black medical doctors that were also professors of of Black medical universities, that said that African Americans were dying up to 7 years earlier than Caucasians, and that also that the Black universities were not getting funding from the federal government as they should. And so that,
good for her.
That disparity, that health disparity, and that gap of death needed to be closed to be in line with all Americans. And instead of putting it on the back burner, she started the Office of Minority Health, and the Heckler Report is a 9-volume report that shows how we close that gap.
I'm starting to get the picture here of how great a woman She really was.
It started
and
with that
is.
Catholic teaching. She was taught about justice and mercy, and she had a fierce passion for equality for all Americans, whether you were male or female, black or white, woman, man. Really, anybody was someone that she felt they were worth fighting for.
Now, what about Tip O'Neill? Was a dear friend of the pastor in my parish when I was growing up. I remember they always talked about Tip, and Tip would come to the parish sometimes. He was, of course, a Democrat.
Yes.
Your mother-in-law a Republican, but yet they were able to work together, correct?
When she first met Tip, when she first came into Congress, she shared with him that her full Irish name, Margaret Mary Catherine O'Shaughnessy Heckler. And he said, what of all things, why is Margaret Mary Catherine O'Shaughnessy doing being a Republican? But he would go on and support her throughout her time in Congress. They served together in the House. Then he became Speaker of the House. But I will share a very quick a situation that happened when she was HHS.
Please.
And the Reagan administration was changing how we were handling the terminally ill, that they were no longer going to be able to die in the hospitals like we used to allow. We were going to be able to save millions of dollars if they were sent home to be cared for by family members, if there were such. So anyway, she thought that was unacceptable, and she wanted to push the concept of hospice into the Medicare program where the federal government would help pay and also help support the terminally ill in America. And so with the help of Tip O'Neill, who was the speaker, she sent a group of nuns from her Catholic parish in Arlington, Virginia.
What a hot ticket.
I know, to the Capitol. And the nuns showed up in Tip O'Neill's office, and he said, well, what do I have here?
What could he do, really?
And his assistant said, you have about a dozen nuns that are here from Secretary Heckler, who is, by the way, very upset. And so she just started laughing and saying, so you're all ambassadors from Secretary Heckler? That's my girl.
That's funny.
And with that, he got the Congress on board, and they passed to make hospice a part of the Medicare benefit.
Those were easier days, weren't they, politically? Oh, my gosh.
Well, they were. They crossed the aisle. Not only was she Irish Catholic, and so she had that soft side of feminism, I would say, but she was also just Irish, that fighting force, and I would say her conviction. She was a very convicted person. No lukewarm existed
Clearly,
within Margaret Heckler.
Yeah.
So she did a lot, and she touched millions.
Well, before we let you go, I know you were at Harvard last night with
Yes.
a presentation about the book. How did that go?
Well, it's my second time at Harvard. They invited me in April to speak to their Women in Public Policy program, and then they chose the book as one of their top 5 picks in their summer reading list
Nice.
of 2025.
That's an honor.
So with that, I was honored to come back as one of their main speakers. I spoke yesterday to the Women's Leadership Board. Women from around the world were there representing this group of entrepreneurs, people that had gone to the Kennedy School. And so I was able to share the story
Nice.
of Margaret Heckler.
Nice. Well, there are a lot of Catholics out there, people who care about the country and treasure, political sanity. Where can people get a copy of this book and be inspired by your words?
Thank you. It is available on Amazon, and it's available in hard copy. Of course, most bookstores should have it.
As we say here, hard copy.
Hard copy, sorry. And then it also has an audio version as well through Audible.
Good.
And Kindle.
And can I ask you one last question?
Yes.
Where the heck did you park your car when you went to Harvard Yard?
I took a cab.
That works. Kimberly, thank you so much. And thank you for writing this book. Are you going to leave this here, by the way?
I am.
Yes, that means I get to read it. And you can too. Just look for it. A Woman of First, Margaret Heckler, Political Trailblazer. Look for it on Amazon or wherever great books are sold.